hit the record button, start record. So this webinar will be recorded, and give us 24 hours or so to upload it up to YouTube. But nonetheless, it will be recorded. I'm going to skip the polling this week. Scott normally takes care of that. I'm working from a different desktop, and so I'm just going to assume that everybody is just waiting with bated breath to hear what Andy and I have to talk about tonight, and we'll just leave it at that. So it's the Wednesday, July 13th trade of the week. Real quickly, before we go through it, we've got to get out of the disclaimer slide here. Just remember that Trade Ideas is nothing but a content publisher with some really cool technology to boot. We are not registered investors. We are not brokers. If you're seeking investment or trading advice, please seek that from a professional.
Steve, I'm not seeing this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
No problem. Make presenter. Let me show my screen. Good. Greetings. Thank you.
Here we go.
So I'll use Andy as my eyes and ears. You guys now have eyeballs on my screen, and you can hear me. Thank you so much. Hello, John. Thank you. Thank you, John. So yeah, real quick, the disclaimer. We are just content publishers, like I said, with really cool technology, and we're just here to share some ideas with you. If you're looking for registered investment advice, please seek somebody who is licensed for that. So, always worth a reminder, you're not alone with Trade Ideas. For those of you who don't have Trade Ideas and thinking about coming in, it's a great product, but it's extremely intense and can be overwhelming at times, and we recognize that. So we have a lot of different content portals to try and help people out, mainly the live trading room every day with Barry, who does a great job of not only trading and demonstrating how to trade effectively, but does a great job with the Trade Ideas tools. He's giving people technical advice and help on how to use Trade Ideas. Great multitasker in the live trading room during market hours. Mondays and Thursdays, we have Jamie's studio and trading room moderated by Jamie and myself. I need to update these slides. And Wednesday, you had Dan and Brad this morning doing Q&A, I'm sorry, at 1:30 Pacific. And we're doing the trade of the week now. Not to mention, we have the one-on-one sessions for people. When you at least pick up 1 month of Trade Ideas, you're eligible to sign up for a one-on-one session with one of us to help get you going in the right direction, because again, trading is subjective and everybody approaches it differently across the board. And so there's great different ways to customize and tailor Trade Ideas to what it is your particular objective is. So again, the one-on-one sessions are great. And then not on this slide, of course, is the open house, which is starting next Monday, July 18th through the 22nd. All week, we're going to be opening up the Trade Ideas platform open house. If you don't have a copy of that link, let me get one for you here real quick, and I'll drop that into the chat window. It's a great opportunity to come in and get a feel for all of the features available to you on Trade Ideas, including AI, Holly, and price alerts and other things that we're going to talk about tonight. But if that's news to you, the July 18th open house, check out the chat window there that I just dropped a link into, and you'll see an invitation to sign up and get all the features for 5 days. And then, of course, if you do that, highly recommend you hang out in the live trading room, because that's where we are all going to be helping people get used to the product and answering questions. So, again, you're not alone with Trade Ideas. We really try hard to have a concierge service and really take you guys under the wing to make sure you get the best and fastest start. This is an old slide again, but just a reminder, the new beta 0.73 is out. We have some upgrades in the exit features, which have been out for a few weeks now, the profit save and reduce risk. But we're going to talk about something today going forward, which is risk on and risk off. This is the new feature that we have for the development version that I'm running, and I'll show you an example of that in a moment, and some of the philosophies behind risk on, risk off. But, you know, the agenda for tonight, it might be a quick one. We'll see if time permits. But we're going to, as usual, go over the market recap, take a look at the spiders, SPY, and see what's going on, and get some thoughts of where we are, where we might be going. Going to do over the Holly AI recap today, and again, some of the new risk management features. Today was a unique day. Yesterday was a great day, too. We'll talk about both days and how they differed significantly in risk on, risk off type speak. The trade of the week recap this week, trade of the week was AKS Steel. We'll talk about that. And we'll probably even highlight last week's EGO trade as well, because that one I think is shaping up for another nice move. And we'll take a visual and look at that and let you see what I'm thinking on there. And then we'll go ahead and set some price alerts in real time. I've got a few jotted down, and we'll go through a few more scans, and we will essentially mark up some price alerts and share those if people are interested. And can we talk about OUTR2? Yeah, I'll make a note of that, Jennifer. We'll try and talk about that because that one is making some interesting noises. Andy will do his best to try and answer some of your questions while we're talking. I'll do my best to do the same when he's talking. And then at the end, if we have some time, we'll look at maybe a few charts upon request and get some of our opinions on what some of these charts might look like to you guys as well. All right. Okay, let's go right into the market recap. I'm going to do as I always do, bring up my spider chart and extend it tremendously. Let's zoom in first and take a look at what's going on. Well, as you guys may have heard, yesterday we did close at brand new highs, SP 500, SPY, whatever you want to look at. Technically broke out of the prior high, which was back here. Now, where do we go from here? You know, we've talked a lot about expending energy. We've expended a lot of energy down here from this head fake up with a quick base camp build and then another shoot higher with tons of gaps in between. It's been a very difficult 2 weeks for the perma bears that are looking for this market to fall out of bed based on, you know, what they're reading on the tea leaves of the economy and the world economy and interest rates and federal central bankers and things like that. So, you know, I'm not surprised to see that we had a bit of a pullback, a little bit of a slowdown today, red candle. You know, if somebody put a gun to my head and said, what do you think is going to happen going forward? Well, I don't know. I'm not in the business of predicting, but I can give you what I think might happen, maybe what my bias might be. These two lines we drew here are going to be of significance, I believe. The first line is obviously the resistance point that we broke out of recently here in the spiders. The second line is the line that goes back to the all-time highs. So I'm thinking we could have some backing and filling in order. Maybe a couple days of sideways action, maybe even a little price pullback. And two levels to watch would be, one, the breakout level of the all-time highs, which would be this level here at 213.79-ish. And if that gets breached, it's quite possible that we could go back and play the game of let's turn prior resistance into current support. So 212.58 roughly could be a secondary level of pullback, which would be perfectly healthy for the bulls to work off a lot of that energy that's been worked off here and give ourselves a few days of pullback. Please remember, price stocks can consolidate in two different fashions. One in price with pullback in price, and the other is just over time. So ideally, the best case scenario for the bulls would be to just have some price consolidation over time, maybe go sideways here for the remainder of the week, and at some point during the day, maybe try and test that upper line, and if that is breached, then that lower line could be in play as well. And again, this is the basic 101 thinking, and this has always been the case. Prior resistance can become current support and vice versa. So what was once acting as resistance oftentimes will come back and test and become support moving forward. So that's what I'm seeing on here in the bigger picture. You got anything you want to add to that, Andy?
Oh yeah, sure. You know, I've kind of been wrong. Up until the last few days, I mean, we've definitely been range bound. You know, I've been a little more bearish. You know, mostly on the fundamentals, but you know, I've been proven wrong to this point. But I will say this, yeah, I got this idea from intraday trading. You know, a lot of people, when I'm looking for like a breakout, Etsy might be a good example above the 10 level. You know. Which was a trade of the week a while back, and see how it pierced that 10 level and didn't stay long and came back through. So what you kind of want to see is a confirmation of a breakout, and confirmation, you know, will take place only over time. And so what you would like to see in the spiders, yeah, people will say, oh, we're broken out now, we're going to head higher, we're going to head higher. But for me, if you want to go back to the spiders there, Steve, what I want to see is, and like Steve said, a little backing and filling, but I would like to see a trade above that prior high, which would be that the upper line up there, that's deep. Yeah, I would like to see a trade above that for several days, maybe even a week, because
Yeah.
you see too many failed breakouts that will go through. If this comes back down the next couple of days and gets back into that range, okay, then you potentially have a failed breakout, and we could just fall right back into the range. So I never get too excited at first, especially on a longer term trade. I would confirmation, and the only confirmation is going to be over time. If it can hold this high for a few days, a week, and then start, building up out of it, drops right back into the range, you have what's called a failed breakout.
Yep, it's a good example he gave there of a failed breakout. The more, Andy's correct, the more times, the more days they can close above the top line here in the SPYs, the better. So, all right, let's move forward here. Let me shrink my chart up a little bit. All right, hang on one second. Let me turn this off. Okay. Where are we going next? We're going to talk about, I think Holly's had a couple interesting days, and we'll do a Holly recap. So I am running version 4.0.75, and this is the latest version. It is a developer's version where we run it to try and look for bugs. But what's different about this version now is we have modified some of the verbiage on closed profit trades and open trades to risk on, risk off. If you'll notice now on the performance of the day, Holly had a really nice day, $3.06 on a pretty choppy day, I might add. The S&Ps, let me just show you real quickly. Here was our opening candle. We went from positive to negative, back to positive, back to negative, back to positive, and then kind of chopped around. I think we crossed the unchanged line probably 4 or 5, maybe 6 times today. That in itself is a great definition of a statistically noisy day. What would be a statistically sound day? Well, that would be what we had yesterday, and this is right here. Those of you who heard me talk about how I love my horseshoe alerts, well, that's what the S&P spiders actually did yesterday. They gapped up, held their gap, and horseshoed higher for the remainder of the day. Stayed positive, really nice trend in the middle of the day. This was a risk-on day. The reason I bring that up is I'm going to show you, again, some of the changes that were made or modifications to Holly. If I click this, today we were on risk-off mode, which means this is the total for all of the Holly exits, whether she exited with a target hit, which we had today, which is awesome. We always want to see target hit. Nice trade there. But the stop losses, reduced risk, profit saves, the reasons that Holly does get out of trades, those are considered the risk off. And so today, the Holly entry and exits risk off made $3.06. But if I click this here, it's a bit more noisy. The risk on was a much more noisier day. So not as great of a performance if you had just held everything all day long, which is another way of the risk on, basically not exiting with Holly and just taking it into the close and calculating it that way. So the opposite thing is what happened yesterday. Yesterday, as I said, was a statistically clean day with the gap up and the spiders moving higher. So we had things trending nicely all day long. A lot of the Holly trades were in the money early and making new highs throughout the day. As she bails and gets out, you've heard me say over and over ad nauseum, why are you getting out if it's a good trade? There still could be some more meat on the bone. Remember, we're all wired to have greed and fear, but the problem is humans fear that the profit that was on their screen is going to disappear, and they get itchy and they get the trigger finger and they take profits too quickly, when in reality we should be fearing that we're going to be missing out on the remaining profits. And so like yesterday was a great statistical day. I think Holly finished it. She was up at one point $19 or $20 on the risk on.
Crazy.
And then yesterday a little bit of selling towards the end, finished. I think she settled around 14 or 15, but an unbelievably solid day for the entries being held all day long, which again we're going to be referring to as risk on. Risk off was the play today. And again, my feeling is statistically noisy starting here, back and forth, positive, negative, just not quite the move and the solid trending moves that we had yesterday. So as you can see here, a lot of great win percentages. This selling into the strength. Short worked as well as long. We had a really nice flurry at the end, flurry, I should say. If you see this big uptick in P&L, it was because Holly decided that the close was going to be maybe a little bit weak and put on a bunch of short sales at once. See, if we just go to power hour short, we can quickly see starting at Pacific time, 3:13 East Coast time, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. About 11 or 12 trades were fired off short, and for the most part, these were solid, particularly Sage. Sage actually had about 3 points of alpha on it, but backed up and finished a little bit lower than where Holly got out, but it was a nice $1 bell ring on the target hit for Holly on that one. But it just goes to show you, throughout the day, anything can happen. And in the final hour, the only thing that really was of interest to the AI was firing off some short trades. And again, on the profit percentage here, we had 2.2%, and then the worst trade of all, I believe, was 0.8% negative on the profit side. So, a relatively slow and steady move today with Holly. But that is the new mode in which we're going to be speaking of Holly: risk on and risk off. If I double click on risk off here, we can see how the day shaped up. If we double click on risk on, we can see how the exits that Holly took. Excuse me, that was backwards. Risk on, this was how the day shaped, and this was how the day shaped up with Holly's exits. Did you have anything you wanted to add there?
No, I think a couple of guys may be a little bit confused in there.
Okay.
One guy's asking about what is risk on and risk off exactly.
Yeah.
And it can be a little confusing. Because at any given time, especially in the early going, it's hard to decide, if it's going to be a risk on, risk off day. Even if you go back and look at yesterday, we did have a downdraft in the market before it stabilized, and as Steve pointed out, started to develop that horseshoe pattern. And if I remember correctly, it may, Holly may have even dipped red a little bit yesterday before, things started really taking off, but. I feel like you want to say something there, Steve, about the risk on and risk off?
I went to the Holly channel, and if you have the channels available and turn them on, there's something new that's on there, and it is this window right here, the risk on and risk off. Now, it is just starting to update after hours. These are the great windows we need to leave on and leave them running so you can really see how things have been shaping up going back. But I do have an example earlier that Dan sent me on the risk on, risk off, and this was a kind of an example. This was taken directly from the channel that I just clicked on, and this is showing a lot of back and forth. The bulls had charge, and then the bears took charge. The bulls took charge, and so when we see this type of constant crossover pattern, or more than likely the red starting to take off and move higher, that's going to be more of the risk off. Risk on is more green, have more solid upticks, and what this particular alert is monitoring and scanning for in the market. So if you're always kind of unsure of where really the risk on, risk off thinking is, you can now go to the Holly channel and click on here, and this new window has been configured as such. And a risk on day would be a nice green bar with the green above the red and trending higher. A risk off day would be basically the image that I just showed you. Statistically noisy. So on the statistically noisy days, the risk off seems to work a little bit better so far. We'll see if that continues to hold. But these are all new developments. We're continually trying to improve Holly and help Holly improve herself. Matter of fact, I got a little bit of a teaser for you. As I understand it, we've been talking a lot about the horseshoe alerts and how well a lot of those horseshoe alerts have been working. Horseshoe alerts. And I actually submitted what we call a base strategy to Brad on the development side, and Holly now has a strategy called Horseshoe Up. So keep an eye out for that, because I know a lot of you have been asking me about that. I've been making examples of the horseshoe alerts and back testing them and showing in real time how awesome the back testing is working. So it made perfect sense to throw that into Holly's bin and see what she can do with it with her configurations. But yeah, again, the SPY did a horseshoe yesterday. It's such a powerful pattern, in my opinion. The actual alert itself only had one alert today, which triggered and then kind of chopped back and forth, but did close higher in the money. And I'm looking at this thing on the daily, which is the first thing I want to look at on the daily. It's a rather new issue. I haven't heard of it, but I'm actually liking what I'm seeing here. I'm loving the gap. I'm loving the horseshoe for the most part closing near highs. So I'm just going to jump the gun here real quick on this TWLO, and I'm going to set a price alert right at the highs of today, 49. What is it? 49.76. We're going to go to. Actually, no, that's 49.81. That's what I wanted. Let's just leave it at that. Okay, so that one's actually been set today. What else to talk about, Holly, today? I think. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I tell you what, I've been watching Holly morph over the last few weeks. I'm really liking what I'm seeing with the profit save and the risk reduction, and now with the risk on and risk off. She's been spitting out some really good numbers of late, and I just want to say, guys, I mean, a lot of times you have to just put on your trader hat. I want you to pull up NetSuite from yesterday, the symbol N, Steve, and if you can somehow get the 5 minute, or maybe even the 15 would probably work, But this was a beautiful call by Holly on a pullback early in the morning. It made a high, I think, of around 77. One more bar. No, come on back around 77. There you go. Yeah. Okay, see that high early in the morning around 77, I think 60 level, 70 level, a little bit, one more over. Right there. Okay, and then it pulled back. Holly called it a 77.40. Beautiful pullback alert, bullish pullback. She called it at 77.40, and then it horseshoed right there and just took out that high, and then volume came in, and that was like an 8-point I should say risk on trade. If you go back to the daily, you can see what she was kind of looking at there. Just breaking out of that range. She had a gap fill. That's just incredible volume, huge move there. I mean, when I see Holly making calls like that, and that's not the only one. She's had several the last few days. That's telling me, man, she's on to something. And pay attention, because what we're seeing, a lot of guys are giving new strategies, like Steve and his horseshoe, and keep an eye on these things because it's really been heating up lately.
Well, speaking of, this was also a new strategy from Steve today. I call it the quarterback. It's basically a stock that's running up on really good volume and making really good green candles across the board. Let me just go back to my time frame here so I have my okay. And here was STRP today, and it essentially looked for this green bar, and on the first pullback, it was about a 25% pullback. It fired, and Holly took the trade, and immediately on this wick got above the threshold to set in the profit save, and then once it pulled back, it took 17 cents and called it a winner, and that was the right move once again. But the point is, like Andy's saying, we're constantly feeding new strategies that are working, keeping the pool fresh for her to work with. I really like what I've seen lately as well. I think yesterday we had about 4 or 5 trades that were over 7 or 8% each. Those were decent movers yesterday. So quarterback is a new one. Look out for a horseshoe up and maybe soon to be horseshoe down as well. But I think the real takeaway again from today that Dan wanted me to remind you guys, and I'll just answer the question for Bill again, how do you get a look at that risk on, risk off? It is on the Holly channel. This is already here and configured for you. What I can do is, for those that don't have the Holly channel, and I understand, let's just go ahead and grab the configuration of it. And for those of you that can't make it to that particular channel, I'll drop this configuration cloud link into the chat window so you can actually create your own risk on, risk off scenario. All right, let me go back to.
Let me get this straight while you're doing that, Steve. So you're saying if they have the standard version, they're going to be able to pull up?
It's just a compare account window labeled as such. Trying to show when the statistical noisiness is coming into the market, looking at the top ticks, high ticks, low ticks.
Gotcha.
Default layout. All right. So that's in the chat window for those that want. Alpha Predator was turned into an alert. We've talked a lot about the Alpha Predator as the top list, spitting out ideas throughout the day, being sorted. But the Alpha Predator was actually converted from the filters from the top list and created an alert. Let's take a quick look at the configuration while we can. basically took all the filters from the Alpha Predator top list, and we have a new 5-minute high as our event. If you recall, we have to have an event, and in this case, it's going to be a 5-minute high. So this was transposed into the Alpha Predator, and today it didn't have too many, but it did have Ren. And Ren was having another really nice day again today. Basically, this is the day right here. Really good solid movement. So I think some people were asking about how did you turn the Alpha Predator top list into an alert? Well, that's how I did it, but to make it easy, sure, we'll just go ahead and share this as well, because I anticipate some people will be asking for that as well. All right, and again, the Alpha Predator is being used in the live trading room a lot to find the really early hot movers, and trust me, if you're in the room, you'll see them talking about whatever is all over that particular alert and top list. All right, well, let's move forward a little bit and talk about trade of the week.
But just to make one thing clear, Ren was not a call on holiday today, though, right?
No,
you mentioned it has been turned into, because it has been turned into a strategy as well. So, okay.
It has, yeah, it has. Yeah, okay. As a matter of fact, that strategy I believe was on here, Alpha Predator, and it scored low. It did not have a great score. Did not fire any trades, which is fine, but we'll see that one in the future, I do believe. Okay, so let's go to the trade of the week, which was AKS. AKS Steel. And what we're trying to do with the trade of the weeks is find trend-changing opportunities and high short float opportunities that certainly help. And then you mix in a little bit of sector strength and what some of the other peers are doing. And we kicked it around this weekend and decided to come up with AKS. We could have went with X, which had just as nice of a move, but the AKS is a bit more of a trend changer and has maybe a bit more room to run. We've seen a lot of stocks come out of the $5 range as of late. And our idea is to try and hook you guys up with something that works and works quickly and helps pay for a Trade Ideas subscription. But not all of them are going to work as ideally as AKS did. Going into the weekend, we did not have these three candles here. We basically kind of had a wedge, and noticed the strength in CLF, NUE, X, and some of the other STLD, some of the other steel names, and it looked like AKS was lagging, and it again was showing up on the trend change lubricant, giving us some data on the short float as well. So I wish they would all work as well as this one. Basically, the idea was to buy it on the open. We thought it might gap a little bit, and it did. So the trade is actually live down there around 492, 493. But then the next day, we had a really nice 10% move yesterday. So there was, I wish I could, I wish we could put together something that would generate 10%, in the first week of the trade of the week calls. But we can't always get that. But this week, it did work out pretty well for us. But let's talk about that red candle today. I mean, essentially, we went up. Let's take a look here. The high of that is 550. The high of yesterday was, 549. So it basically got real close to where sellers were anticipated to come back in, just by quickly looking left on the chart and getting an idea of where the next level of resistance would be. So we got there yesterday, went through it by a few pennies on the open this morning, and then a quick fallback, as did a lot of the other steel stocks as well. But the good news is it did not take out yesterday's low, it did not try and fill that gap, and it had a really nice bottoming tail, pushing the price, getting half of it back today. I fully expect this one to continue to work higher. If we do get lucky enough to see this $5.95, $6 range, this could be where the first level of supplies do start to show up for selling. So this trade is still intact. If you have any questions about it, we can certainly answer it. The initial stop was placed below this little hitch right here by about 6 or 7 cents. So 442 is the current stop. You could probably make a great case to move that stop up if you're so inclined, because of the nice 10% move that we did have yesterday. Do you have any thoughts on AKS here going forward, Andy?
No, I mean, I think you did a very good job of describing it. I agree with everything you said. And, one thing I want to point out is because this is not your dad's market, Easy Trade. And back in the old school, and Steve and I have both been, trading for 18, plus years, it used to be, okay, the market is potentially going to break out here. Okay, we want to buy the strong stocks because those are the ones that's going to rip. It's not the case anymore. Ever since, basically 0% interest rates, money just kind of fluctuates, comes in out of the strong sectors, moves into another sector. You could pull up right now. Take a look. Let's take a look at Facebook. Look at that. It's nowhere near, it's breakout range there to the upside. Apple's another one. Netflix, some of the strong stocks you would anticipate in a market that's breaking out right now that would be working, but it's not the case. So because sometimes we get some I don't want to say harsh comments, but people questioning our calls. Why do you want to play that? That's in a downtrend. It's in a long-term downtrend. But one thing Steve and I, even when we were with Today Trader, and we still consider ourselves part of Today Trader, but we adapt. And you can see here that a lot of the money is flowing into commodities. You look at the steel sector, look at X, Nucor. And so it doesn't phase us at all anymore. I mean, it doesn't bother us to take a chart that's kind of in a downtrend, looks like it may be turning, because I mean, all you got to do is look at some of its look at Facebook and Apple, and where else are you going to get a 10% move like this? It's I just want to throw that out because I know a lot of people still believe you need to move into the sectors that's working strong, but it's not the case anymore. Money flows in and out of these sectors, and commodities and oil, and so it's just a different market.
Yeah, here's the SLX, which is basically the steel ETF, and you can see here quickly it did break out of a general ETF sector list. But as I was going through earlier, look at these four names here. X, look at that move. Look at STLD, really nice move. Nucor, really nice move. CLF, really nice move. So AKS was kind of bringing up the rear, and it had everything that we like to look and talk about for Trade of the Week and give people some opportunity for maybe a longer-term move. So I also want to bring up last week, EGO is still intact. It's never really given too much of a issue. But I tell you what, I'm really liking what I'm seeing here. I mean, it broke out above that. It's tried to break down below that a couple times and really hasn't been able to. But this flagging stuff right here, this is a really nice looking consolidation. Like I said earlier, it's digesting that big move it had up. It's kind of digesting it sideways over time. I fully expect EGO to try and make another move. And you can see I've actually set a price alert just to bring it to my attention if it does, if it gets back above these 2 wicks over here. But I really feel like it's setting up to do the same thing. We could look at the GDX as well, see kind of the same thing. This has been trending really nicely. And up here, it's not giving any of this back. It doesn't look like, at the moment, it doesn't look like it has any interest in filling this gap. It's just going sideways. And so I'm really liking what I'm seeing there. I really feel that the EGO is still a strong candidate. The week before that, Andy mentioned, was Facebook. And, again, there was a nice 10% move in Facebook, but it took us 2.5 weeks or so to get our move. It didn't come as easily as it did in AKS today with just one move. But it is curious, like Andy pointed out, here we've got a market that's breaking out, but Facebook can't kind of get out of its range here. For whatever the reason is, it's kind of lagging a little bit. So, if you're still in the Facebook trade, try and protect your profits. Obviously a case could be made for continued strength, but only time will tell on that one.
Sure.
All right.
Which, by the way, going back to EGO, I really love the way that chart's setting up. I think it's setting up for a potentially huge move. I mean, you look at some of the GORO and the move it had, the VGC, and I think this thing is potentially setting up for a really good move.
Well, let's take a look
at what I really is when you watch when gold and GDX really comes off, this thing's not pulling back that much, and that just tells me it's under accumulation. You can look at the days when gold pulled back and GDX pulled back, and this thing is really holding up nicely. So it has a lot of potential there.
So I think what we really like to see, as you guys can see, I just pulled way back in time and found another level of interest. I think it's this horizontal level here. Basically, it looks like 530, 35 level. This is going to be the one to watch. I feel like this consolidation here is getting ready to push higher and get up and test these levels, and then we'll see what happens when the price does get to those levels and what kind of test does occur. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking for EGO. It's nice. Andy and I both are in full agreement. We've been watching charts for 20 years. There's easily 10,000 hours between the two of us, and it's always nice when we agree with our gut feeling, kind of seeing something really like that. Imprint on that look right there, guys. That's a really good looking bull flag, in my opinion.
And it's a low risk too, because if it does fail and fall down below the the 460, 450. I know your stop is lower than that, but it should hold that level, you know. It looks like you want to move on to outer here.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry. I was moving on
No,
because
no problem.
somebody had asked earlier if we could take a look at it, and it is an interesting
Sure.
chart. And this was a trade of the week at one time, right back here on the breakout, but we didn't get that hold that Andy was talking about that we need, and therefore that hold broke down and we got stopped out. Well, here it is resetting again. Look at this, back to those levels, resistance, pull back, but building a higher low, building a higher base camp. Now we're just going sideways down here along these levels. Yeah, the bonus trade of the week, Jennifer, it was. And one of the reasons I really like this trade of the week is an insane, unbelievable 65.3% short the float. Stock is making money. So I'm kind of scratching my head. Maybe there's something I obviously don't know, but on the surface, I can't really see what the big issue is. And let's take it a step further. I mean, this is basically the company that owns the Redbox DVD rentals and the Coinstar, which I just used happily the other day. I see people lining up for both these things all the time. It's kind of like a cricket phone. Maybe the people that don't want to sign up for a monthly download streaming movies or don't want to roll their quarters going to the bank, they're happy to stand in line at these kiosks and let these robots do the transaction for them. So I believe in the business model. I think it's a great looking business model, but the chart certainly has my interest here at these levels, mainly because of that 65.3% short the float. So it didn't go anywhere. Basically, we broke above the kind of levels before, but we're just kind of going sideways. I think what I would look at is the lows of these wicks right here. We want to keep above the 43.20 level, but at the same time, we want to get above this high from yesterday and close and stay above that. So if we can get above 44.50, I believe, and stay and trade above 44.50, that will continue to hopefully move higher. And with that short float in your back pocket, it is a good thing to note. Quick comment from R. Bernard. I was under the impression that Holly picked the trade of the week. No, Holly does trades in real time, reacting to market conditions. The Trade Ideas Pro platform, using the charts, the trend change lubricant, and some other filters that we have, are the basic scans that help us narrow down a short list. And then on the weekend, myself, Dan, Jamie, and Andy, we're kind of kicking things around back and forth, talking about what might be the best trade to pull out of that short list. But the ideas are all pulled, certainly, from our technology and used going forward. All right. And ideally, obviously, this OUTR, if they could clear 45.28, that would be really nice. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else you want to add before we move on to the next topic?
To really squeeze shorts, I think you're probably going to have to get into that gap. I mean,
what's going to scare the longs?
Shorts are a different breed, and if you want to see a good example, look at GoPro back in 2014, I believe, or it may have been 15.
This is back here.
Yeah, back here. Okay, they had a huge short interest. Okay, that is a squeeze right there, and I'm not saying it is definitely fuel to the fire, but I know a lot of this is what I call smart money, and like Steve said, they may know something that I don't, but that doesn't mean they can't get squeezed. So if you want to go back to outer,
okay,
I think if it gets in that gap right there, that line he has drawn, then I think you could really see some squeezing action going on. Of course, okay. I mean, if you break the trend and start in the day, which you're not far from it, breaking the trend. No. Actually, if you get into that, you're going to be breaking the trend.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
That's where you could really probably start seeing some covering going on. Right now it's still in a downtrend. The bears are in charge, but boy, I tell you what, yeah, you start working on that gap there, and then you may really see a squeeze. But
it's a good point. But we're going to have to get through this little level to get to that level. So this is our first line of defense.
Absolutely.
But yes, Andy makes a great point here. This 49.79, 49.80 is really where it's all going to wind up happening. But knowing that you've got that 65% short the float in your back pocket certainly does help you keep your eye on this radar going forward. All right.
Mm-hmm.
That Now, also, guys, keep in mind on this single stock window, we're heading back into earnings season, and this one has 11 days before earnings are coming up. So we got to really get in the habit again. If you're going to start taking stocks home and holding overnight, you really need to know when the earnings are coming out, because I guarantee you the trading gods, they never really seem to shine on you when you accidentally take something home and news comes out overnight. It just seems like it never really works out that way. The golf gods and the trading gods, they share the same office floor.
Yeah.
So, all right, what I want to do now is I've got a few that I've marked up that I want to go through and give some possible price alerts here, and then maybe open it to the floor for a few questions. Again, this is the primary window that we're searching for the trade of the week off of, but I like to go to this thing a few times throughout the day and see if I can notice anything of interest. And I have the trend change lubricant sorted by short float. This particular one, CACC. Okay, good question. Just came right in. What does short float mean? Let's take a look at this real quick here. We've got two columns, float shares and float percentage. Now, for some of you, this might be, going back in basic trading, but it's really important for everybody to understand. So for those that don't know, you're going to get a little knowledge here. The short float percent. Now, when you short a stock, your broker is basically lending you the certificates that they have in their inventory. Those certificates are tallied and counted, and we get an aggregate count of how much of these certificates in circulation are being held by short sellers who have an open short position, which means to close that position, they will have to buy to cover their short position. And when you're buying, in addition to other people buying that want to go long, and you're buying to get out to stop the bleeding because you're losing frantically, that's what we call a short squeeze. It's like the perfect storm of buyers. The shorts getting out to cover their losses, and the new longs getting in to anticipate a good trade. But the key is to find that correct trigger. Well, a couple of things that are important to look at are what's the size of the float. In this particular case, 8.3 million shares is really low. I mean, anything under 10 or 15 million shares is a pretty significantly low float. Anything under 5 million is extremely low. So when you have a low float of shares under 10 million like this, and a high percentage of those shares are being held by short sellers, well, you've got kind of a tinderbox that could be ready to explode given the right scenario. Well, on this particular one, those are great numbers, but I'm not really seeing anything on the chart here. It's still kind of being held down by its downtrend, and not much to go on there. What I can do is give you a great example going back to X. Back here, when X had a short float of 56% and got above our pivot line, which we identified support, congestion, resistance, this is when the short seller started to freak out, and this is what you call a bona fide short squeeze. Just a unbelievable fury of buying on both sides. Short sellers getting out to cover their losses, and buyers getting in to establish a new position and probably twist the knife a little bit for the short sellers. So these are the kind of situations we're looking for mostly on the trend change lubricant. I didn't see it on the CACC. PMTS, however, I am kind of seeing something I like. I'm seeing that giant gap void that Andy was just talking about a minute ago. And what we've got here is a high ridge that was acting as resistance, pulled the price back off 5 days, but price is coming running back again with actually a little bit of a higher high. I'm kind of interested in this one because if we can take out today's high, we're in the void here. There's really nothing to look back at and see where resistance might lie. So I'm going to alert myself on the high of this one here. Today is 515, so we'll go 516, create our price alert. On this one, let's take a look. 23% short the float is rather significant. I like anything above 15 or 18%. So I'll remind myself, found on Trend Change Lubricant, and this is me talking to my future self so I know if this thing pops up what I was thinking. Break out into the void. Short float is 23%. And just so I know, earnings are 20 days away, so earnings aren't really a big deal on this one to worry about yet. So we'll go ahead and set that. Line turns red, it stays red until it's triggered. My price alerts are going to be right down here at the bottom working. There it is, PMTS with my notes. So we'll continue to move on here and see if we see anything else. Shake Shack has always seemed to have it. Actually, they're working their short float down. It's been much higher in the past, but it's only 15% now. But again, it broke through the level of interest and then pulled right back a really long wick. I really don't like to see these. There's really nothing I can do with these. And you'll see as we talk about some of the more charts, topping and bottoming wicks, I don't want any part of. It's just real sloppy noise. Going to move on from that. This UVE, well, decent. It's up at a level of interest, but it's expended a lot of energy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days just getting up here. The bigger picture, it's kind of been down here for a while trying to break out of this range. I mean, you could make a case to maybe go right above this this wick right here and put an alert in, which also kind of corresponds to this low back here. But it's just not compelling. It's spent a lot of energy getting back to where it was. I'd like to see something moving more sideways at the moment. Chipotle's been having a rough time. And again, it's just really been beaten up down here, very close to its 52-week lows, skipping along the bottom there. This looks like it's definitely support, but I'm just not seeing it. The trend is still intact. I'm not really seeing anything coming up of interest, so I'm going to pass on that one as well. I believe I had a couple that I wrote down. I'm not sure. Okay, this one was good at one time. I'm not liking that at the moment. TT0000. That's all. So let's go ahead and move on to the bullish piercing. That's where I found this one. So this is my bullish piercing. Basically looking for stocks that have been down at least 3 days on good volume and volatility. And then if it's more than 3 days, that's fine. But the minute it turns and starts to pierce into the prior day's candle and change colors with the candle here, this becomes a level of interest. But this one pretty much closed near highs. It didn't have that giant wick where it goes up and back, kind of like this candle. It took a few more days to work that out. Even yesterday took a little bit to work that out. But today, it went to new lows, couldn't make a new low, and it's kind of closed near its highs. I like this one. I'm going to go ahead and flag this one and put on my price alerts. 532 is the high, so we'll go 512 is the high. We'll go 513. Is that our price alert?
Can you scroll out a little bit on that one too, so we can kind of
see where it's coming?
Yeah.
Yeesh. Tough one.
Well, it's one of those. If it takes it out, it's very simple. If it takes out that high, you know, if I tried something like that and it took out that high, I'm buying it. But as soon as it comes right back through, you know, because
short leash is what you're saying. Yeah, short leash.
Yeah, and not only that, what I would do is use the $5 level, because a lot of times what you see algos will take things below $5. Shake the trees below $5. So that's what, if I was playing that stock and I bought that stock, I would definitely get out if it dropped below $5. So I'd give myself, 10 or 15 cents. And
not only that, on the upside, I'd give myself maybe a day or a day and a half. I'm not trying to call a world-class bottom here where this thing is just going to rally off these lows for eternity. No, it's an oversold dead cat bounce. There's a little bit of oomph in it that could squeeze a day or two or a day and a half of interest. So we got that one. This TZA, can't use that. That's an inverse ETF. We don't want to use those. TWLO, where did I find that one? We've already marked that one up. I marked that one up earlier. We talked about outer as well. So let's see what else we got. I've got the inverse, the bearish piercing, which we have a few more to choose from because of the way the market's been working. It's been many up days, but looking for a possible rollover. Let's go through these here real quick and see if we can find something of interest. I'd like to see a bit more run than that getting started, a bit more height. It gave back most of it already. Taco, never heard of this one. Not much going on there. Well, this one's kind of interesting. It's had, look at, we talk about red bar ignore. We only have red bar ignore on the daily chart as well. 1, 2, 3 green bars are red bar, and no thank you. More green bars, trend continuation. Same thing here, red bar, trend continuation. But now, nice topping tail. I really like that topping tail. We'll blow off the top. Big move from the bottom to the top. I think there could be a case to be made, to possibly come back and maybe try and fill this little, that's not a gap, I shouldn't say that. But there could be a day and a half or a 2-day trade on the pullback. I'm going to go ahead and set this at lows, 21.99, so we'll go 21.98. And coding it for a short, maybe your 1 or 2 day hold if it triggers.
Yeah, technically a pretty strong chart. I'm just looking back on the daily here on my own chart over here, and so I agree with you, Steve, as far as a potential 2 or 3 day move.
Okay. RRD, well, this one's already got a really good head start after that gap up. It's probably just going to fill its gap, so there's not much meat left on the bone there. I don't like the topping or the bottoming tails together. Don't like that one. GoPro, wow, haven't seen that name in a while. It didn't really come from very far. No real fallback. Big bottoming tail, we don't need that. Well, you know, you could make it. This one looks very similar to what the S&P looks like. Very similar to the S&Ps. Like it's almost tracking it. Interesting. Yep. Schwab, yeah, it's small. It's an ETF, small U.S. small cap. That's why I knew it looked familiar. No. 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 Too big of a bottoming tail. That's not what we want to see. SGY, what's this going to look like? Again, big, wide ranges, wide tails. I'd rather see something closing near lows. Bottoming tail, not really going to work on that one. Well, that's kind of interesting. It's in a downtrend. Like that big topping tail, but not really super convicted. I thought I had another one that I really liked. No, Ozark. That's kind of interesting. Ozark had news, though, I think. But there could be a case to be made for this thing to fall back and fill. We've got very, very tight range body, no real rejection wick, a nice little nifty gap that could be filled here. It's probably worth a mention. Let's go ahead and mark that one up. We'll go 33.98. All right. And a few more here. Yeah, good question, John. How do you get the window in the upper right with the with all the stock info? This is called a single stock window, and it's linked to all the charts. All you have to do is go New, Single Stock Window, and there you go. This is the defaults, but you can go in like I did and configure it and take out what you want and what you don't want and what you want to add. You can add anything that we have. So very simple, good question. Highly recommended in earnings season, and I look at it a lot for short float as well. Horribly long tail. We don't want that at all. If this was just a little wick and a solid candle body, it might have been interesting. But nope, it's already kind of made its noise. Easy pawn. Yeah. So there's a possibility. It obviously had really nice news and gapped up. That's a pretty big gap. And
that's a tough one.
I'd rather see stuff that really popped and needs to get some give back. That's just too many gaps in that one. I think that's going to be about it for the, well, this one's not bad actually. Decent move. We got a gap down here. I think I'm going to end on this one. Yesterday, a nice topping tail. Today, it couldn't take it out. A lot of red candle, closing close to the red candle lows. Go ahead and mark this one up as our last one. 26.22 is what I'm going to need. Short. And
I like that one too. You know, trading in the like lower half of its range still, yearly range. So yeah, that's kind of.
That could be a possible question mark on the fill the gap. So that's really what I like to do, is to constantly, continually update price alerts and try and find trades that you may not find in real time because you're focused on something else. We all know it's real easy to get sidetracked. So serving up trades using the Trinity, using our alerts, our Holly, our AI, finding things that even she picked that we might like in the future, marking them up with our price alerts, using our charts, trying to keep it as real simple as possible. But that's really all I've got tonight for you guys on the trade of the week. Hopefully next week's trade of the week can give us a nice 10% alpha in the same week. We'll do our best to try and do that. And again, like I said, make it easy for you guys to have the money magically appear in your account to buy a great subscription to this wonderful product. Is this on standard version? Yes, Greg, I'm on the standard version right now. Just so you know what you get with the standard version, you get the alerts, the A windows, you get the top list, the T windows, multi-strategy windows, you get the charts, you get the single stock window, as I just pointed out as well, and you get, of course, the channels, which can take you through a bunch of great configurations. So what you get with the premium is the AI window. You get the price alerts, which I've been setting with my price alerts here. and you get the back testing, which we'll do it again another episode. But a lot of people watch me back test this horseshoe alert and give us just an awesome strategy to work with going forward. And I'll just do a quick button push there so you can see what the back testing module looks like. This is what Holly uses, but we can also use it manually to fine-tune strategies and see what would happen if we bought and sold based on prior data. And lastly, you get the red bar ignored, green bar ignored. I mentioned a quick example of that earlier. It's right here, called the Premium RBI and GBI. So a few extra features, and again, it's worth noting, you guys that don't have trade ideas or maybe even want to upgrade for the week of the open house on next Monday, that is available to you, so you will be able to try all of the extra AI and premium features that are available. So with that said, I'm going to bring back up the slide and just kind of sing us out here. Not sing us out, but play us out. What's the word I'm trying to think of? There we go. To reward you guys. Yeah, to reward you guys for showing up and listening to us talk. We do have 15% off at checkout, either the TI monthly, $99 a month, or $888 a year, which is a great annual prepay, and the TI premium, which again highlights some of the differences here that I just explained for the premium. You can always back and forth, upshift to this if you want to try it out for a month, and then downshift back to this if you'd like. But again, remember, we do have the open house coming up next week. I put a link in the chat window that has a link to take you to the landing page to sign up for that if interested. Check the chat window. As always, if you have any questions, you can info@trade-ideas.com. Or you can email Dan at Trade Ideas, or Steve at Trade Ideas, or Andy at Trade Ideas. We're all there with very simple names. You can follow myself at Today Trader on Twitter. Dan is at Trade Ideas 1. This webinar was recorded and will be uploaded in about 24 hours. Appreciate y'all showing up. And once again, this info at Trade Ideas is something you can send 24 hours a day. And, we will get to it, we will answer it, and we will get it to the right person. Did I forget to drop the price alert? Yes, Frank, thank you. I don't always do that, but I have a bad habit of doing that. Thank you so much. Let me get my price alerts up and share them. Again, this is one of the cool things about price alerts, is that they are shareable, just like about everything else at Trade Ideas, using the cloud and the collaboration features. So not a whole lot today, but I will share these three. Copy all and paste it. It's just now pasted into the chat window. So I'll give you guys about 30 seconds or so. Thank you for the reminder there, Frank. Thank you, everybody. You are free to email us, like I said, at those email addresses listed above, and your email will be forwarded to the correct department. Please, if you're not using the live trading room, you guys are missing out. Jump in there. There's lots to learn. There's lots of good stuff every day, day in and day out. All right, Andy, anything else?
All right. No, you said it all, man. Rambled through it quite well.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody, showing up. We'll see you next Wednesday. I'll stop the recording.